Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Diamond and Conqueror League series. This is a new series with now ranked mode being public and accessible to everybody. We'll be observing and casting quite a lot of high-level ranked games, particularly in Diamond and the Conqueror League. At the time of recording, these two players haven't reached Diamond or Conqueror yet, simply because ranked was only out for like 1 or 2 days. So basically, they're still climbing the ladder. But with that being said, we do have Nevix on the right side. In Chinese, in red, the map is Hill and Dale, and on the north, we're going to have the Viper playing as the French in blue. Viper, of course, one of the most accomplished, if not the most accomplished Age of Empires players ever, a true legend in Age of Empires 2. He has also had some great tournament performances in Age of Empires 4. Whereas on the other side, Nevix, he's a former Overwatch pro, and he regularly plays in high-level tournaments on AoE 4 as well. So he's also a pretty high-level player. Obviously, just by looking at this matchup, you would think that Viper has the edge. But Nevix, he's not a pushover, so don't sleep on him. So French versus Chinese on this map is a somewhat unconventional civilization matchup in many ways. Chinese, it is a pretty popular civilization pick for Hill and Dale. It's a civilization that's great with late game, great with the eco focus. Whereas for the French, it's a bit of an old school pick, because let's not forget, the French do have a pretty powerful economy. So if they are playing a slow-paced, defensive and economy-focused game, then the French can really well play that as well. Obviously, they prefer to play somewhat more aggressively, potentially even in Feudal Age, so they do have that option, but in the end, if this is turning into a massive eco-focused game over here with multiple town centers for both, the French don't really complain about that either. Viper so far, standard French opening over here, taking the sheep, he's sending out villagers to gold, that is the third villager that's being sent out, whereas on the other side, for Nevix, he's operating with one Imperial officer, he's supervising that mill. Now with the new patch out, the Imperial officer cost was changed, which means that now instead of costing 150 food, it is 100 food and 50 gold. That brings in a new element to the Dark Age of the Chinese, that being you having to mine some extra gold. So before this change, you could basically get away with Chinese not mining gold in Dark Age, even when you make an Imperial officer. You can no longer do that, because otherwise you just delay your Feudal Age so much, you can't live off the taxes entirely. Now, Nevix doesn't have a lumber camp right now, if I'm correct, so he's just dropping straggler trees right now, whereas on the other side, it looks like Viper is just now dropping a lumber camp, and indeed, Nevix doesn't have a lumber camp here, he's at only 30 wood. He went for the house, he went for the mill, and he went for a mining camp, that was it. Where else did he spend wood? Yeah, that's it. That's it, he doesn't have enough wood for a lumber camp right now. He should have it in a matter of seconds, and you see, if you look at his resources at the bottom left, or even the top corner, he's lacking gold. So he was a little late to the party mining gold, and that's something that's going to delay his Feudal Age a tiny bit. Now, it's not a complete disaster, because Chinese build landmarks a little faster, so you can just rush it up with 6-7 villagers really fast and still get a better Feudal Age timing than the French player, but it wasn't the perfect eco balance out there. Now you see, he's banking up quite a lot of food and even some gold, so it's possible we're seeing a fast Song dynasty, which has become more and more popular with the Chinese. You see, he's only building that Imperial Academy with 2 villagers, so that's a sign that he's trying to commit a lot of villagers towards gathering resources. The more villagers you build that landmark with, the less you're committing to gathering resources. So that's the trade-off. Viper is using 3 or 4 villagers out there, and looking at him, looks like he actually placed the mill on the berries. That's a little surprising, because normally you place it on your hunt, especially if you don't take it soon. The fact that he's placing it on the berries, to me, is a sign that he just wants it for wheelbarrow. Looking at Viper, he's got great vision on the base of Nevix. You see, not only 1 scout, but 2 scouts roaming the base, and he has spotted the amount of gold miners Nevix has. So he probably is aware of the fact that Nevix is still mining gold, and that's a sign that we're going to see a relatively fast Song dynasty out here. Village now being dropped right next to that gold mine, that's going to provide some extra safety out here for Nevix. Currently he's housed, which is a bit of a problem, but he just now finished with that village, so no more problems. And indeed, there is going to be the wheelbarrow coming in for Viper. He's also popping out a knight. Now, Nevix is not walled, and he doesn't have a barracks either, so responding to those knights is gonna be a little problematic, and you see, that is the fast Song dynasty we're talking about. Those villagers moving out for the Barbican, most likely. They will try to drop it in this middle area. Gold is now there for Nevix to drop it, but Viper spots it. Viper knows about this one, and this is a problem for Nevix. He's trying to drop that Barbican, but guess what? The first knight is approaching. You can see it on the minimap. The first knight is already coming in from the north, and I'm not sure if this Barbican is going up before that first knight arrives. No more villagers are being pulled by Nevix over here. Barracks just now being dropped, immediately being supervised. He needs a couple of spearmen, but he's only committing 4 villagers to that Barbican. First knight closing in dangerously fast over here. Still about 50% completion for that Barbican. First spearman could come out, but not enough wood. Simply not enough wood for Nevix to pop that first spearman out. And with that, he's going to start losing villagers on that Barbican. The first villager gets taken down. Spearman now pops out. A second villager is something that Viper could commit against. And he does. Swings that sword. Takes down 2 villagers. Great value for that first knight over there for Viper. Looks like Viper is also grabbing Chivalry, adding some extra knights. So he appreciates the fact that his opponent's base is still wide open, so he has the option to start roaming around, getting a couple more villager picks. Hardened Spearman upgrade just now coming in for Nevix. So Nevix has to invest a lot into this defense, but he gets the Barbican up, which unlocks Song Dynasty, and with that the faster villager training. So using that, he can recuperate the villager losses. Now keep in mind that French also train their villagers faster, so the Song Dynasty isn't going to give as big of an eco advantage for the Chinese player here as compared to what it would do against a non-French player. Looks like Viper understands the position that he's in. Nevix is not pushing to control the map, which means that he can go for the boar. And that's a great move from him. Boar is becoming more and more popular to be taken by pretty much all civilizations, but French with the cheap mill, you can really justify doing that. Looks like a bit of a scuffle here on the right side with the Spearman, potentially taking down the Scout over here. The Scout is at 1 HP, Scout gets taken down from Viper, he's going to keep that Knight alive. On the other side though, oh no, the Knight got taken down. That's a bit of a disaster there for Viper, and he is not gonna lose the villager at least. Whew, that was close. So Viper aggroed the boar with the Knight, because obviously the Knight can heal up with the Chivalry technology. Villagers cannot. So you want to aggro the boar with the Knight, pretty much tank the damage and then kill it. Now here's the deal. As you see, there is a couple of weak villagers as well. So Nevix, seeing that boar operation, he could actually commit his scout, try to snipe that low HP villager out there. He probably won't do that, but he at least is aware of that boar position. So Viper tried to aggro the boar with the Knight and just tank up damage with that, and then later on heal it up. But it looks like the boar just did a little too much damage. Viper didn't notice that Knight getting killed in time. He probably was focusing on that Scout and Knight fight with the Spearman, so he was probably distracted and spotted that Knight getting killed a little too late. Stable is up for Nevix, so he's starting to pop out some Horsemen as well. And with the Horseman and Spearman combination, he could potentially push away Viper from that boar. For now, he's just going to pursue that Scout to the south with the Horseman. Nevix coming in with the Wolof over here, and you see Viper, he's got some Knights around, but Nevix, he's not gonna get spotted by those Knights. Nevix is going to dance around with that Scout. He wants to maintain vision on that boar. He wants to know what exactly is happening over there. And now Nevix, take a look at that. He sees those Knights and he's coming in with the Spearman. Viper? I think Viper did not see those Spearmen. Nevix should see those Knights coming in. We're currently looking at 32 versus 30 villagers. Bit of a scuffle here in the middle. Knights get a successful charge on that Horseman. And now they could continue into the base of Nevix because the Spearmen are heading towards those boar villagers. Now there's a tower on that boar now, so you can't just take those villagers down that easily. But some of those villagers are weak. You can only fit 5 villagers into that tower, so 3 of them would be left outside. Viper, he's going to respond with adding his own Spearman, and he's now dropping the Blacksmith as well. That Blacksmith is going to give you 1 extra attack, and that is massive for the French Knights, because that's exactly what you need to double tap villagers. Without that Blacksmith upgrade that you're getting for free, the melee attack, you would need 3 hits to kill a villager. With that, it's only 2, so it's a massive buff. And also, not to be neglected is the fact... Wait. He didn't finish the Blacksmith. Viper did not finish the Blacksmith. Now, this is awkward. It's possible that he's delaying it, seeing if he really needs it. Because keep in mind that right now, he only needs a Blacksmith if he's going to start taking fights in the next few minutes. And as long as it's incomplete and it wasn't damaged, he can cancel it anytime and get a full refund. Oh, looks like Knights are coming in on the right side. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but it looks like the Spearman should be able to discourage them. Viper still tempted to fight this one, isolates 1 Spearman. The second one is going to join the party. First Spearman gone. Nevix needs to rush those walls up to prevent the knights from breaking in here. Another spearman pops out, and it looks like the walls will be complete in time, so Viper can't break in. So Nevix, or a Viper rather, could get a full refund for that blacksmith if he decides to cancel this. And maybe he's waiting and saying, hey, do I need this blacksmith right now, or do I want to cancel it and turn it into another production building maybe? Or it might have just been a misclick. Maybe he just misclicked the villager building it because he's not canceling it, he's not finishing it. So that one extra attack that you would get from the blacksmith, that's definitely helpful for not only your knights, but your spearmen as well. And you see Viper is adding quite a lot of spears. He's on the way to Castle Age right now with the guild hall, and you see he should clearly see that blacksmith being incomplete. So the only thing I can think about is that this is intentional. Because there's no way he just accidentally misclicked the villager and he never noticed that this blacksmith is incomplete. So weird. This is the first time I'm seeing anything like that. Horseman now moving in towards that scout. One of those horsemen are actually weak, so if the scout fights back, he might be able to kill that. But it looks like he's just going to try and run away. 3 horsemen should be able to deal with that. And with that, Viper's vision is going to be a lot more limited than what it used to be. Viper up to Castle Age, Nevix still in Feudal, but looking at the resources he has, he could get up to Castle Age pretty soon. He's in Song Dynasty. Currently, we are looking at 54 population for Nevix, and for Viper, we should have something comparable. For now, he's grabbing the Veteran Knight upgrade, 1 barracks, 1 stable. He's got the guild hall as well, he's mining stone. Now, that stone could be for a second town center, especially if he's anticipating that the Chinese player is playing multiple town centers. 43 villagers right now for Nevix, 44 for Viper. So, head-to-head are the players in terms of villager count. Incomes per minute, it's a little low on the gold department for Nevix, and that's something that's setting back quite a bit with the Castle Age timing. You see, he's floating a ton of food and wood, but simply insufficient gold for this one. Now, look at this. Nevix is going to spot the amount of stone taken off from this stone mine, so he knows that Viper could afford a second town center, but it looks like Viper is not dropping a second TC. Which is a sign that this could be for a castle. And don't forget, the Chinese do, or the French rather, do benefit a lot from keeps, because they do get discount on produced knights when you build the stables right next to the keeps. So that's actually a pretty decent benefit, but it looks like it's going to be a second town center after all here by Viper. Now, he's still mining stones. It's possible he's thinking about a third one or a future castle. Dropping farms in the middle, this is gonna be quite exposed over here. For now, it looks like he feels safe with this one, but this could end up being a problem for him in the future if Nevix decides to start pushing this angle. Knights are still roaming the base of Nevix over here. Nevix got a couple of lancers as well to try and clean this up. Also quite a lot of spears. Looks like the knights are moving in. They might intercept that Imperial officer. That would be a massive pickup for Viper, and he does get the kill. Great value for those knights out there. Now villagers running into the village. Looks like Viper is going to pursue the ones that can't fit in, and he might get another kill here. So much value for just 2 knights over here. Another villager goes down, and this last one also gets taken down. That's 2 villagers and an Imperial officer getting taken down. Second town center just now being added here by Nevix. He's trying to wall off this crossing over here. Viper is going to get away with the 2 weak knights. He can heal those up later on, so that's great value as well. And Viper still mining stone quite actively, currently sitting on 2 town centers. He actually did finish that blacksmith now, so he does have the 2 melee attack upgrades for free with the French. Viper also chopping a lot of wood. So the thing here, as you see, his guild hall is currently set on food. So the thing here is that he's mining a lot of stone, but he's also chopping a lot of wood, as if he wanted to drop additional town centers, and that's exactly the case. That's TC number 3 here for Viper. In the meantime, gotta love this position for Nevix. He's walling off the right side because one of the changes that has happened to Hillandale is that now you only spawn with 1 forest on the top of the hill. Maybe you get a second very small one, but you have 1 big forest on the top of your hill, and that's TC number 4 for Viper. Talk about a big boom here coming in for him. So you only spawn with 1 forest on your hill. So securing all this right side for Nevix is pretty valuable. And now we're looking at the 3 town centers, I believe, for Nevix. 3 town centers with the Song Dynasty as compared to 4 town centers with the French. That's gonna be comparable. Viper understands that Nevix, him being fully walled, means that he's likely going to play a very eco-heavy approach over here with the Chinese. try to drag it out late game, and Viper could do two things here. Either play aggressive, try to push his opponent while he's focusing on the eco, or he himself could play very eco-focused, and this is the option that Viper decides. He's going to play 4 Town Centers, not something that you see every day in 1v1 high-level games, but Viper is one of those players that loves to play these smart, greedy plays. Because this is greedy, but it's also smart. He's understanding that he's very unlikely to get pushed, so he's not gonna get punished for that 4 Town Center play. Now, you see, one of the problems that Nevix is facing in that income per minute tab is that he's got 150 or 180 food per minute. So you can have 3 Town Centers with the Song Dynasty, but if you can't make all 3 of them work, that's a problem. So you need a much more sustainable food income to be able to consistently produce villagers. You can have 10 Town Centers if you want. If you don't have the food to make all of them work, they're worthless. So this is one of the problems that Nevix is facing. Viper's food eco is a lot more sustainable, and look at the placement of those archer ranges and stables. That's a perfect alignment for a keep to be dropped in the middle. Because if you place a keep in the middle, all of those buildings will produce units at a discounted rate, and that would be great value for Viper. I'm fairly certain that he wants a keep in the middle. Otherwise, I don't understand why he would place them in the arrangement that he did. Looking at Viper, he is at 627 stone. Alternatively, he could think about a keep in this middle area because that would protect those farmers. It would secure the sacred site, the gold mine, the stone mine out there. So there could be a lot of value in a forward-ish keep here for Viper for map control. He's moving in from the right side. This is fully walled, so he shouldn't be able to get in. Viper. Okay, he's going to try and burn his way through these walls. And wait a second. No. Holy potatoes. How is that open? How is that open? Now, Viper is going to see the Lancers here from Nevix, so he's going to be like, oh yeah, I don't want to fight this, but I don't know how this is open. And I don't think that Viper ever sent a villager to chop through this one. So that's the surprising thing. Maybe Nevix didn't finish one pillar or something. It looks awkward. It looks awkward. Now we're going to see that food income rise, though, for Nevix. He's dropping the granaries, and this is the magical thing in those granaries. The bonus that you get, the extra getter rate, those stack. So 3 granaries, if all 3 of them are affecting a single villager, that means that they're getting the benefit from all 3 of those. So you can actually have a great food income, and there indeed is the castle for Viper. Surrounding it is the production buildings, and that is going to give him a great discount on unit production. It's definitely something that helps a lot late game with sustainability and making sure that you can continuously afford military production. Both players still in Castle Age right now. Nevix at 105 population. He's now on 3 Town Centers with the Song Dynasty, so he's gonna have a pretty decent boom. And of course, you do have the granaries as well. And look at that, Viper is going up to Imperial. 17 villagers building a College of Artillery. A landmark that you don't commonly see nowadays, mainly because the Red Palace is such a powerful defensive landmark. But it's a great landmark as well. The College of Artillery is no pushover. The thing is that this landmark is going to allow you to make the Royal Culverin. This is the only way that the French can get the Royal Culverin. It's a very powerful anti-siege weapon. So it's going to be great against the Clock Tower Springles, the Clock Tower Bombards, or the Clock Tower Nest of Beasts from the Chinese. It's going to be a great anti-siege weapon. And of course, Viper this way gives up on the Red Palace and the firepower that comes with it. But in the long run, especially if he's feeling confident and he's going to be the aggressor, the College of Artillery pays off a lot better. So, Viper is going to pick up the relic on the left side. So, if Viper thinks he's going to be the aggressor, then the College of Artillery is worth it a lot more than having the Red Palace out there. Obviously, if he's going to be the one getting pushed, it's going to be a little more concerning because the Red Palace is definitely, well, it is the strongest defensive landmark out there. So, it would be a great tool to slow down an enemy counterattack with. Viper with a second castle, though, for himself once again, dropping those production buildings around. And there's enlistment incentives. That is an upgrade that's going to further decrease the cost of units that are trained near castles from those production buildings. So the discount that you're getting on those units is pretty substantial. And by the way, it's not even a super expensive upgrade. It's 150, 350. So as you see, it is 25% by default, 25% cost decrease. And you would further decrease that by 5%. So you see it's 112 food and 80 gold for a knight. Now the barracks are not affected, so it's only the archer ranges and the stables. But for the arbaletier, for example, or the archers, they do have a massive discount. Hand cannoneers as well, 96.96 instead of 120 is also a pretty decent discount. Now Nevix is on the way to Imperial as well with what is the Spirit Way, I do believe, probably at the back of his base. He's depleting that forest inside his base, and that's the reason why that expansion to the right side was so valuable. He can just move out in that direction. Viper currently sitting on 2 relics over here. Nevix started stonewalling the front as well. It's gonna be a little tricky with all those gold mines and elevation over there. And now the question becomes, what is Nevix exactly doing? Ooh. Spirit Way with archer ranges around. That could be mass Jugenu, but that would be a bit of an awkward approach. Hold on. It's a Great Wall Gatehouse. This is a straight Ming Dynasty into Grenadiers. You rarely see that in 1v1, especially this early, 21 minutes. It's so early for Grenadiers. But Grenadiers have become extremely powerful recently, and the main reason why is because mangonels were nerfed. And with mangonels nerfed, you don't have a great unit that can destroy large groups of infantry. And the Grenadiers have a tremendous damage output. They're relatively fragile, but if you can mass like 25-30 Grenadiers, that could be devastating. Looks like the Knights are breaking in though, and there's not a single Grenadier on the battlefield yet. If those walls are burned through, this is a problem for Nevix, because those Knights could head straight into his farming eco. The first Grenadiers are now hitting the field, a couple of crossbows and spearmen are out there, but those are elite archers with elite royal knights. And how are you going to protect that food eco? Everybody has to get back to those town centers, and Viper realizes that. Viper needs to see those villagers running back, and he knows there is blood in the water. He knows very well that he can just behead the entire food eco of the opponent over here. First couple of Grenadiers now hitting the field, and it looks like Viper is actually committing against that town center out there with so many Royal Knights. He's going to burn it down. Cannons are also out there, and Viper pushing up with villagers as well, dropping some towers. That's the first Royal Cannon out on the battlefield. Spearmen trying to meet the Knights, but those Spearmen are just so underwhelming right now. And the first Grenadiers hitting the battlefield. Nevix needs to buy some time for himself over here. If he gets to like 30 Grenadiers, stopping that is gonna be extremely difficult for Viper. So Viper knows that. Viper knows fully well, he saw the Grenadiers, that clock is ticking really badly, so he needs to do a tremendous amount of damage over here before Nevix reaches the critical mass of Grenadiers. But look at that. This is the damage output that you're expecting here from so many Royal Knights. They just march into that farming eco, and it's gonna be all gone. Now the Grenadiers will try to engage this one. Narrow choke point is the perfect scenario for the Grenadiers here. And that is actually a great fight for Grenadiers. Look at that. They're melting the Knights. They're melting the Knights. A Castle is also up. That's going to help as well. Archers slowly picking off the Grenadiers. But Nevix might actually hold this. Nevix might actually hold this one because he's going to take down so many of those Knights. And now the narrow choke point. The Archers are clumped up over there. The Grenadiers do have area damage, so they just massacre all those units in that choke point. And you see, slowly but surely the Archer numbers are getting depleted, but Nevix getting pushed with another wave as well. And the problem is that the Grenadier numbers are just insufficient. Not enough Grenadiers. So many of those archers have fallen to the Grenadiers, but how are you going to replenish that? Nevix is down to 29 food, and Grenadiers are expensive. You can't stop this army now because you simply don't have the resources to replenish those lost Grenadiers. This is the ideal unit to go for right now for Nevix. The problem is that Viper just doesn't let him get to the critical mass. Only a handful of Grenadiers remain on the battlefield. And the problem for Nevix is that he simply doesn't have the resources to replenish that force. Bombards are still burning down buildings over here. And Viper is just reinforcing the battlefield with archers and knights. Wave after wave, dropping a forward keep here as well. Nevix is gonna have to stop that one. In the meantime, the Knights are killing all those villagers, mining gold as well. The eco of Nevix is a train wreck right now. And the problem is that without eco, he won't be able to replenish those Grenadiers. He still has a decent amount of them out there, but you see they're pretty expensive, especially in the food cost. On the Spirit Way, it's only 84 food, but with all those farmers being idle for so long, you couldn't really afford it. Now, Nevix is breaking out, and the critical mass is getting closer and closer. So you see now, we got 15 Grenadiers out there. And once you start getting to like 20, 25, that's where they become really dangerous. Now, a bit of an overextension here from Nevix, though. He's running into tower fire, running into the Knights. He's trying to stop this keep over here, but he's just throwing away all the Grenadiers. And now the Grenadiers are getting cleaned up by the Knights. Viper is going to pull the villagers back to the castle. The castle is barely standing, by the way. It's like 15% HP at best. The castle actually gets taken down here by Nevix, but Nevix is going to tap out nonetheless. He's saying that the knights will just flood his eco and he simply has no more Grenadiers left. The timing on this push from Viper was perfect, because this push came in the exact moment that it was needed. If Viper delays this by 2 minutes, Nevix would have had the critical mass of Grenadiers to stop this one. Taking a look at the statistics over here, let's take a look at the villager graph. You see, Nevix was actually behind compared to Viper, and this is what I was referring to when I said that was a smart greed from Viper to go for 4 town centers over here. And the military graph, that's the brutal thing. Viper just flooded his opponent before Nevix was able to get to the critical mass of Grenadiers. Viper really just timed that push so well. I think he anticipated Grenadiers to a certain extent, and he knew exactly that he was on a timer, and the timing just came in perfectly for him. And with that, Viper is going to take the win against Nevix. Quite an unconventional game though. It is a game where we saw 4 town centers from the French, Grenadiers from the Chinese, not something that you see every day, and you see the lack of food, how much it was haunting Nevix, especially at that time. At that time, at like 18 minutes, that is what delayed his Imperial Age, ultimately resulting in delayed the timing on the Grenadiers as well.